my subscribers called Gautam Arun, and he wanted to ask me very specifically with regards to um, something very specific. He wanted to ask me about the greens and the views, and I wanted to answer him because I've not had a chance to make a video on this. But let's get an answer out to him, so it helps, right? The whole idea is for people to be able to benefit from from essentially being able to invest in the right place in the right way, right? So his questions, I think, quite detailed in that he wanted to ask me about what I think about the greens and the views. This is one of the earliest freehold areas that was launched in Dubai. Okay, and he wants to invest as an end user. And he wanted my opinion. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a history on the area, a little primer, and then give you one key thing, in my personal opinion, that you should do if you're looking to invest in this area. Okay, this is something that is absolutely critical that you must do. Okay, so let's do a show reel first, if my team puts that in later on, and then let's get into the actual question. Okay, so this I'm answering from for Gotham. Let's see if you guys get better lighting like this. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I'm answering for Gotham, and he asked me very specifically about the greens and the views area. Okay, so a little bit of a history back on this. Back in early 2000, Imar actually invited the top community in Dubai at that time, and they basically said to them, these were professors, expats who were living in Dubai, and they basically said to them, "Hey, why don't you come? We'd like to share with you our vision for a specific development." And they actually shared with them, and they shared with them the entire vision of the greens. This is a first-hand account from one of the professors, a doctor who was teaching in one of the universities in Dubai over here. He's since moved on. I think he's now in Korea or something. But I remember him telling us the story in 2007. So Imar invites all these people. You could sort of call them like the top 1 to 5% of society, and then announces their plan and tells them, look, we're going to be making this development called the Greens. I don't know if it was called the Greens at that time, but we're going to be making that development over here, and we'd like you to actually um, tell us if you'd like to invest. We'd like you to tell us more about what your opinion is. Sort of like a focus group, but obviously at the same time, if Umar is inviting you, then they would also give you an opportunity to invest, right? Anyways, this professor, I clearly remember, back in 2000, 2001, 2, Dubai Media City, Internet City, and Knowledge Village, which is where the Greens is right opposite across the road, was not fully developed, and nobody actually understood what's going to completely become of this area, right? So this professor, I remember from his mouth saying that, I never invested. One of my friends bought 3 apartments there, all one bedrooms. I think she bought them for 200 or 150,000 dirhams or something, and then ended up reselling them all the way up to 750,000 dirhams at one stage. So she made a lot of money. He did not, because he didn't invest, but he never thought any more of it. He didn't feel bad about it. But this is just for you to actually understand the history of this area. So this area is 10 plus years old, especially the smaller buildings, the greens and so on and so forth. They're 10 plus, 12 plus years old. Um, Maybe 13 to 14 years older, right? The views or the taller buildings in the greens, which are newer and oversee the golf course, they're better in terms of their newness. But the smaller ground plus 4, ground plus 5, ground plus 3 buildings, they're like 14, 15 years old. Okay. Now, very quickly, one thing that you need to know is that just recently somebody from my team was looking to rent something for one of my VIP clients, help them out in that area. Nothing available because that place is, always super booked. Apartments get rented super fast, especially now that a lot of foreigners are again coming into town. A lot of offices are based in the free zones. But just remember one thing, because a lot of offices are based in Jebel Ali, Internet City, Media City, knowledge village, doesn't mean that it's going to continue like this. Remember that Dubai is moving away from a model of the local sponsorship. They're moving more and more towards the 100% ownership. So companies now aren't going to be just in those specific free zones. They're going to be all over Dubai, and plus there's tons of other free zones as well. That said, the commercial area across from the greens is almost always uh, kind of like fully occupied as well. So you will get a lot of people looking to live in the greens and just commute across the street. So that's number one. The demand is very good over there if you're looking to invest over there. Okay. Number one pro. Number two, it's kind of like a mini community. Okay. It's not gated, but it's got a swimming pool, a play area. Children can kind of play inside the community. So that's another plus. Plus, number three, there's good shops around that area. Number four, there's a metro station that's fairly close by. So you've got good connectivity for people who are not living, who don't have a car if you wanted to rent it out and so on and so forth. Okay. Number five, it's run still by Emar. Emar is a master community developer. They know what they're doing. Okay. So if you start making a list of the pros, there's tons of pros that I can announce, and then you can also think about. Um, and then there's tons of lists. Okay, the second part, however, okay, that you need to actually, I should have mentioned this as the first thing, but a lot of people come to me and they ask me like, hey, can I invest in this area? Is it good? I always tell them, look, an investment is very particular to your particular situation. Okay, how much money do you have? When do you want to exit? Are you a patient landlord? Do you need somebody on the ground to manage the property? Are you locally living here? Can you look after maintenance issues yourself? Are you amenable to doing upgrades in the apartment? Because that's what greens would need inside the apartment as well, right? You got to be able to pay the extra money, maybe up to 50, 100,000 dirhams per apartment, but don't expect to charge that much more money in rent instantaneously. That's not going to make sense to any tenant, right? You got to remember, you can't put 50,000 dirhams and then raise rent by 50,000 dirhams. So all of those things are going to be dependent on you. Now, if you are patient, maybe it's a right investment for you. If you're not, and you don't have the tenacity to handle complaints from tenants, or you're not willing to hire a proper professional property manager, then greens is not the area for you at the moment. Okay. Now, now I'm going to give you one very particular thing that I personally would do if I was looking to invest in the greens. Okay, I personally think it's a great place. You can actually even invest, refurbish the apartments, and resell. But uh, fortunate or unfortunate, a lot of buildings built 10, 15 years ago in Dubai, they've kind of run down. Okay, whether it's a top developer or low developer, the buildings run down. Okay, they require a lot of decent maintenance. Everything like your car, an apartment requires maintenance, and the building requires maintenance. So what you need to do is think about that. My recent visit to one of the Greens buildings, when I walked around the corridors, the common areas, I wasn't very impressed. The security desk was empty. There was no security concierge downstairs in the building I went. The corridors had leaking ceilings. The elevators were in bad shape. Um, you know, and obviously this kind of like, even though it's so close to Media City and so on and so forth, it kind of like gives you a bad image, right? It's like when tenant walks in, when you walk in, it's not really great. So now this is the value. Sorry, it's taken me 8 minutes to give you this, but this is the value kick that you're really going to have to. Um, this is like the one thing that you really need to do. I would go and approach, like if I was your realtor or if my team was handling you, this is what I would do for you. And I'm giving you free advice so you can do this yourself if you have the time. I would approach the homeowners association. Now, Imar does it themselves. I would approach them and I would somehow get to top management in charge of the greens building. So, like for instance, if in this case, the developer is Imar, and Imar is handling 50 buildings across Dubai. Every building or every community is going to have a top community manager. You need to very respectfully ask them for some time And and this is Dubai. You don't have to bribe anybody. You don't have to lie to anybody. Be very open and tell them, look, I'm looking to buy one, two, three, four apartments in the greens. However, there's some issues I've seen over there. The roof is, you know, leaking, blah, etc., etc. You know, I'd like to know what your plans are for the next 5 years, right? Because you, as an owner, are going to be paying service charges, and you want to ask him, like, where are these service charges being allocated? What are your plans for the next? Because it does not take a lot of money to bring a building really up to speed, clean it all up, and make it smell nice, look good, feel good. And I think the greens is in line for an overhaul, and it's going to happen. Now, if you want to safeguard your investment, you go and approach that property manager and ask him, right? And he's going to be very upfront with you. He's going to tell you, listen, our service charges are X amount, but they're too low at the moment. X amount of people aren't paying. And so all the changes that we've been thinking of doing for the last 2, 3 years, we've not been able to bring in. And I don't think that we're going to be able to do that in the next 2, 3 years. In that scenario, stay away. But if he sees and you see that he's a confident person, he says, like, look, we've got this much money in the sinking fund. The elevators are going to get overhauled one by one. Dark. This is what's happening. This is the plan for the community, etc., etc., etc. That'll give you the confidence to be able to actually invest over there. All right. Ciao for now. Hope this helps. See you on the other side. Bye. Okay. How do I end this? Okay. If anybody had the question, they could ask me, but nobody had a question. So